Hump day. What's going on, everybody? Happy hump day. We're going to take a look at some altcoins, right? So a nice little overview here. Going to take a look at Ethereum as always, and Solana and Cardano. I know that I kind of cover those two often as well, but they just both have some really nice outlooks, in my opinion, after some pretty decent rallies here. So we're just going to really kind of continue with the ongoing analysis there. And we're just going to jump right in. Hope you're all doing well. Let's see if we got any chat going on. Got a couple of you in here. Good morning. Got my straight little Johnny Bravo going on. No hat, no leading crypto hat shill today. But yeah, so Ethereum, it's got the black mamba or the green mamba, right? So green mamba looking structure here, right? Where you get the, little coil at the bottom, you get the little rise, and you got your little snake head now ready to kind of attack the next area on the chart, right? So looking at this in a serious notion here, some, could argue that this is potentially a bull flag or bear flag. There is always an argument to be made, I suppose, on both of those, depending on how you're looking at it. I'm not necessarily looking at either of those at the moment. Only things I'm doing is kind of breaking this down by some current range data. So just looking at a structural base, we have our recent high over here from November. This is our November high, essentially comes in at about 1680, right? So we've got our local high right now at 1655. And when looking at just a couple of shorter term local time frames, not only is this our local high right now, if we look at our previous week data, right? So this is our previous week range right here. This is obviously our previous week high. So, remainder of this week, we do run the idea here, to kind of sweep the highs, so to speak, and then, potentially get a pullback. With that being said, you do have the other high over here that is very close in proximity as well. So, just kind of two really, higher time frame areas, and not necessarily this is a high time frame, but looking back over here for this recent high, it's just something to kind of keep in mind if we do come up and breach these highs, kind of have a lot of stop losses get triggered. And then you would look for that level to be lost for a potential, short idea there. Some targets to the upside at the moment, right? I've brought up the targets to, our downside in a short term, in a local base. Obviously, you kind of have to go level by level in the sense of, are we going straight to, and I say straight, but are we going to, continue marching towards, potentially $2,000 for Ethereum? Is there still potential to come down and take the lows, all the way back down sub $1,000 again? There definitely is. All right. Just at the moment, you really have to start losing some ground, and, you really have to manage things along the way. However, for the upside at the moment, right, because, that is definitely still how we're trending, is that we do have some potential upsides still to be had, whether or not it's just to come up and actually, meet these current highs here, kind of sweep those a little bit, live above that for a minute, and then come back down. Otherwise, what would we be looking for, right? So we do have a yearly pivot, right? So we've been talking about these a lot. Magic and Max, on their streams at 10 a.m. Eastern, right? They cover Bitcoin. Kind of tend to split the two videos up now, just to kind of make it a little bit more diverse. But we do have a yearly pivot, which has got a very high hit rate, right? A very high statistical target that we're going to come up and meet this. Doesn't necessarily mean right now, but, obviously sometime in the near future here. And that's at about 1990. And if you zoom out a little bit, just looking at current, market structure as well, if we were to start making our way up to this region, there would be no reason not to come up and just take the highs, right? And that would essentially, take all these highs dating back to August of 2022, right? So our summer high, essentially. And that is definitely, a major target at the moment, just looking at this from a higher time frame, potentially weeks to months at this point, to kind of come and see that. When you're breaking this down in a shorter time frame, what do you really want to start seeing, right? Is the confirmations, your validations, things of that nature, so that you can kind of gather, is this still something that potentially has more upside? We do have a major target up here. Like I said, I would imagine if we came all the way up to this region, there would be no reason not to at least spike a little higher. at least, breach that $2,000 level and effectively take all these highs. And, that's still a decent little ways away. That would be potentially another 25% move. We've already seen a pretty drastic run up, right, for the crypto market, any market, right? It's and not to say that this is has to end here at 42% run. Realistically, from the low, we're looking at about a 50% rally. It's not that major, when you think about it for crypto. Obviously, in this sense, over here in the summertime, we had like 100 and something percent push higher. Yeah, 130, depending on what lows you're looking at, either way, it was over 100% over the course of a few weeks. So, to continue onward to this region over the course of a few more weeks, it's definitely in the cards. What will I be looking for, at least, right? You can do whatever, but what I'll be looking for, once again, just kind of breaking this down into some current ranges, right? So, really, it's just one that you have to, that I'm paying attention to at the moment. And this is the, the structural range that we've been in since dating back to last summer as well. So all the way back since last May. Sorry. We have seen deviations though, right? So that's the thing to be aware of, is that, you deviate the range. And this is when essentially, you kind of have to be on double alert, because not only do you have to be aware that, you can come back test the range and continue lower, you kind of have to realize and strategize on how you're going to look for actually, the opposite of that. So like if you're coming down, you're deviating the range, you want to be looking for longs, if it's the downside, obviously you want to be looking for shorts when you deviate the range to the upside. Issue is, you can get pretty far away here, right? So where we are now, we are doing just that. So we were looking at the price action yesterday, potentially, actually, I think it was Monday. So, we had this, nice push up on Friday, wick high, and you can see where we came back and, continued to live, which was back in the range. We've slowly grinded our way out of this. This is the 4-hour time frame. So this is a pretty substantial area to, be living above the range, essentially, right? So we broke out, not with a, ton of force at the moment, and you're really just kind of holding this. So once again, kind of going on, like anyone looking at this in a sense of like a bear flag, because, you tend to, when you get these ascending patterns, essentially you would look at that as a bearish, trend that's it's a bullish trend that's about to have a bearish reversal, right? Like that's the idea behind that. To me, however, we very well could be breaking out of this range and, flipping this high as support. And that's exactly what we were looking for yesterday, which was also our daily open, which once again is now our daily open. You can kind of see it over here. And we'll just turn that off right there. So not only is this our value area high, aka the range high, it's been our daily open now for 2 days in a row. So, pretty key level at the moment. And that's basically right where we're at, 1565. We were looking to flip, this level into support and potentially move on higher. Now, not only do we have a major target above us at, almost $2,000, which if we came up to this region, I would imagine we'd at least breach 2K again. However, some short-term areas to be aware of along the way. Once again, do be cautious. Know that we have rallied substantially already. Can we go higher? Always, right? So, you do have these highs to think about here. And in a sense of, once again, just kind of, stacking range on range, looking at the previous range that we were in from last year. Where is it here? Let me see. All right. Just giving a couple more areas to kind of pay attention for as far as, prior to reaching some of these higher targets up here. Meaning that, if we get to these areas, just realize that this is, if you're in positions, you probably want to consider taking some profit, locking in some gains, moving up stop losses, things of that nature, or, still be aware that we don't have to hit this right now, right? This is something we could come back to in a couple of weeks or months. We could very well hit some of these higher time frame resistances and then finally get that reversal, right? Because a pullback is definitely, in the cards here, right? It's not to say that it's, needs to happen right this moment, but it's getting likelier and likelier, right? And the higher you go, the more of a possibility that's going to become. So anybody that's looking to jump in now, that's really, I guess, what this is, what that kind of like mentality should be based around. However, this is a strong uptrend at the moment. Hasn't really, showed too much signs of weakness on turning around. And like for me, it's really just breaking back down, honestly, below the daily open, back below, 1560. Let's just, call it that. And then living below there, in a sense of a 4-hour time frame, daily time, higher time frame closes. So things like that. So we'll be looking for that. But looking at this previous range here, just to once again to kind of identify, where are we at right now? Like I said, you got current highs coming into this region. And if you do break above those, potential to run to the range high right here. And this is a previous range from last year. You can see how right now we're basically living right at the point of control, right? So the highest volume traded area. So flipping, 1590, we're literally living in that little spot right now between like $15, $20 window here. So if you flip this little region, a run to the overall range high, that's definitely, where we're not definitely, but high probability that this is where we're probably going to head, upwards of like 1780. So there's really 3 areas to the upside that I'd be aware of, right? And it's going to be 1680, range high at 1780 essentially. So you got $100 window right there. Obviously, I guess you could, kind of box this area off to say 1660 to 1680, but I'll probably go with, I'd probably say we're going to come up and take this high if we get any kind of push higher here. So this $100 window, 1680 to 1780. And then if you flip 1780, which once again, another local high area over here. So you do have to be aware of an SFP, things of that nature, right? Where you come up and do something like this, shoot up, just basically what we did right here, right? You shot up over an area and you close back below, right? Essentially that's, didn't really have a high or anything that we were taking at that moment, but you did come through and push through the range and close back in, right? So if you see something like that over here, right, you get that wick higher and you close back in the range, essentially you would have taken out this high right here. And that does start positioning us for potential, a lot of people look at that as a fake out or whatever the case is, a scam wick. But yeah, my boy Max is in the chat there, right? So he got all the SFP data for you. But then you'd be looking just for, pull back and rotation of the range back to the downside, point of control, start looking for local gold pockets, things of that nature. So that is really the upside potential for ETH to me. Like, that's what I'd be looking for. I'd really try to simplify this. I know that there's a lot of things, it seems like there's a lot going on. Maybe there isn't, to me, I feel like it's as simple as it can be. Very basic range data, some high time frame pivots. And, at the moment, 3 levels to the upside, right, for continuation. And that's, like I said, 1680, 1780. And then you got the overall yearly pivot coming in up here. Now, as far as, getting the pullbacks, last 3 videos covered them pretty, extensively. Let's turn that off real quick. But you got, if we start turning around from where we are now, once again, losing daily open would be a little indication of that. We still not met the weekly pivot for this week, which is a high stat of, like 80% hit rate, 70, 80% hit rate. Doesn't, once again, 70, 80, it's not 100. So it doesn't have to hit. Obviously, we didn't hit the last week's one either at the moment. So those both are still, high targets for me if we start getting a pullback. As far as a local gold pocket would go, right, we do have that weekly pivot down below us with the local gold pocket here. And then if you're looking at the current range that we're building out right now, you can also see that is our current point of control, right? So even though we've spent good couple of days up in this region, still the most volume for the month of January so far, so the last 20 days almost, has still come in 12, sub 1260. So point of control, golden pocket, and a weekly pivot untapped down here is still pretty, a pretty good target to the downside if we start making our way back down. That's a pretty substantial drop from where we are, right? So, I mean, you're talking like potentially like 20, damn, that's doesn't even seem real. That's 20%. Yeah. So, that's a pretty substantial target if you do ask me. But once again, it's, can't necessarily just gun for it at the moment because we are essentially flipping, a high time frame range and a support at the moment. You come back and start living back within that range, which level wise, that is pretty much, let's just say the daily open, because that is basically the value high. So living back below 1564, but let's just say 1560, start living back below there in a substantial way. pretty material closes below there. Easy target does become this, this week's pivot at 1500. If you lose that, that's pretty much wouldn't say a guaranteed green light, but that's a pretty good indicator if you are paying attention for this in the short term. If you're in a long or anything of that nature, you may want to consider cutting some ties, and then as really, if you re-enter this range back down here at 1450, you definitely have the the motion to basically rotate this range back to the downside, and this area right here becomes a major target. So yeah, that's pretty much my outlook on ETH. And did just want to take a quick peek at Solana. So Solana, very simple range as well. High time frame, took 3 months to build this range out. Perfect hit off the bottom. Nice, beautiful, rotation to the high. And, kind of getting this little toppy, little rounded, top here. So taking, a couple wicks to the high here, have not lived above it. So essentially for Solana, same simple idea here. Flip 24, 27 on a higher, candle base, 4 hour, daily, things of that nature. And we'll, continue up. Otherwise, local gold pocket from current low to high aligns with POC, right? So major target at the moment, if we just were to rotate this range back in full. So that is as simple as that is, right? Been looking at Solana pretty much this whole run up, had a ton of just high statistical targets along the way. And that final hit, target was going to be rotating the range in full. And that's where we've gotten to. So 200%, over a 200% rally. Really nice, push up there. Potential for a pullback is obviously here, and that's potentially if you get a 40% pullback, right? So it's a hard thing to look at, and not a hard thing to look at necessarily, but when this is those risks, right? Because we could very well still continue onward and upward, right? Get a small pullback and run it. But anybody entering now is going to really run the risks of catching that drop, right? So whether it happens today or in a couple more days here, or a week or so, a pullback is just, you can't count out a pullback at this point, right? We're not going just to continue straight up. And this is a really good example of the higher the run, the higher the pullback, because on ETH to pull back to a substantial area, you're talking about 20%. You're talking double that for Solana. However, Solana had a 5x, 4 times as much, actually 5. Yeah. You had a 40%, 50% run up in ETH. So yeah, you got a 4x that on Solana. So Cardano is the other one I just want to take a peek at, kind of trying to, simplify it down as well. We were living in this region, right, for quite some time, which was below the range basically, right? So this was the range we were looking at. We had a untapped at the time quarterly pivot. You had your point of control kind of coming in this region, and we had a monthly here as well. And then we have our high time frame resistance here. So got back into the range, essentially front ran the monthly, back down, tagged the quarterly as support, made our way up, finally hit monthly here. And then we hit our resistance area here as well, noted at 36.8 cents. At this point, really diddling in the middle as far as an entry. So it's a little, it gets a little squirrely on how to, find an entry right now. I mean, intraday, you could definitely do it. But anybody that's holding or looking for, some take profits, I would imagine we, potentially are going to push through and rotate this range in full, at least back to 40 cents. As long as we're kind of holding this region. The monthly pivot is a big one at the moment too. I really want to see flipped into some support. We're really kind of rooting around in this region. Not really holding it. It's just kind of like, dancing around this area. And if you look at this from a different standpoint here, right? So we got our current range we're building out. You'll note that monthly pivot is also the point of control. So this is a dynamic range. So this will change. So it's not necessarily something that, you can just like 100% bet on at the moment, but you really want to live above, this 35 cents. You really want to live above that. So right now we're just, a hair below. And from this, obviously we have a push towards just nothing really crazy. You could almost like map this little area off as well. Just note that, you're getting a little consolidation here, a little pennant, so to speak. So a potential breakout from this is looming. And yeah, I'd really, just the monthly pivot is an easy one for me to just really want to see held as support here in the short term, because like I said, it's our current point of control as well. And then from there, I would imagine we're going to push up and potentially finish out this range, another 15% to the upside. Is that worth getting in on an entry for only a potential 15% at the moment, right? That's where it comes down to whatever you're doing. Otherwise, if you've been in positions, this is definitely a final take profit area in a short term, right? So, and then you really want to, then we'll just reevaluate. We'll see if we start to flip this region. You can easily do things where, you exit a position here, and this is just talking about short-term trades, not talking about, exiting your HODL bag or whatever. And you do that for one of two reasons, right? Because now we potentially could come down and get that pullback. And even if you do get the push higher, more than likely you're going to come back down and retest this region before continuing. So you could essentially, bag your, your gains here, and then it basically aim to re-enter pretty much in the same area. But then you get the comfort, you'll get to see what happens, right? So you're not just aimlessly hoping we're just going to break through and continue higher. Because like I said, the market as a whole has been running. So, you really do have to acknowledge that pullback is in the cards here. And gold pocket also aligns pretty nicely with our current range as well. Just did want to point that out, right? So if we do start kind of taking the plunge here, you've got, so the gold pocket right now, current gold pocket from local low, local high, does come in right at the range low of our current range we're building out. So you're at the point of control. So, once again, really want to see 35 cents flip this support. Otherwise, if we start putting in something like this, I know I just kind of pointed out this little pennant that I'm sure many are looking at. If you start getting something like this, where you break down and get the back test of that 35 cents, potentially we're going to head back lower, right? So that would be a major target for me, would be back down towards the gold pocket, which is essentially in this 27 to 29 cent area for Cardano. So, all right, beautiful. That is all I have for y'all today. Be sure to tune in for the Bitcoin analysis update with Magic Internet Money and Max today. Burr Max, my boy in the chat here. What's going on, T-Bone? Pool man. They'll be coming to you live at 10 a.m. Eastern, so in a couple more hours here for the Bitcoin update. So I hope you all enjoyed this altcoin update. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel if you do enjoy these daily updates, and we will continue with it again tomorrow. If you're interested in joining the Living Crypto Discord server, where you get instant lifetime updates for our analysis, you have a ton of other traders actively in the group. A couple of the guys have been really crushing it with Waves, Ocean, always Bitcoin, Ethereum. We really focus heavily on those. You can be sure to join that. The information is in our description box below. We have a 15 video step-by-step academy, which basically goes through all of our tools, resources, all the acronym, kind of gets all the verbiage and things of that nature. So he'll get you caught up to speed pretty quickly. We do offer a half off special for the first month, continuing through the rest of this month. So if you're interested, be sure to check that out. Otherwise, I will be sure to see you all in the next video. Have a great morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in this beautiful world. And until then, cheers.